right, everybody. Well, welcome back to another episode of the Blazer Victory Podcast. John Duncan here. And of course, I'm joined as always with my co hosts, Darian Smith and Jimmy Marion. And guys, we are on to the next page. Darian and I said that a lot last year, flipping and turning that page over. But a very important game, even though it's another non conference game this Saturday, is the Louisiana Raging Cajuns come to Birmingham to take on the UAB Blazers. That'll be Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Now, we hope that you can make it out to Protective Stadium, but if not, the game will be streamed on ESPN Plus. But before we get started and diving into that preview between UAB and Louisiana, we definitely want to plug the Patreon one more time, patreon.com/BlazerPod. We dropped a fantastic interview Monday night. Not an interview, I'm sorry. We dropped an after review episode on the Patreon where Darian gave some very, very good points after rewatching the film of the Georgia Southern game. Over 45 minutes of just great content. So you can join the Patreon for as little as just $5 a month, or you can join annually and get a 10% discount for the whole year. But my goodness, what an episode. And, we're doing that almost every week where, we're still going to drop our instant reaction after the game, but we're going to do our film review the next day where we're able to kind of sit down and rewatch the film of the game. And we're calling that segment after review. So Darian, just another kudos to you, man. That was another great episode that you, helped us do on just looking at the film. And hey, it wasn't as bad as we kind of hinted at after the instant reaction, right?
Right. The instant reaction is always going to be way more emotional. We're charged. We're drinking Cahaba beer. We're just,
yes,
we're emotionally invested in watching our program, our team go out there and make a statement. Week 2, I was so amped up for that game. So afterwards, of course, you're going to be emotionally charged. We're not coaches. It's not our responsibility to be responsible every time. Like, we're responsible enough. But yeah, after sitting down and watching the film, you kind of get a piece. You're like, okay, are we just getting our butts whooped up front? Like, yeah, we were getting our butts whooped, but at least it was like a guy here, a guy there. And then 75% of that time, it looked like we were getting our butts whooped. We was just like missing assignments. It's like little things that you can correct. And Trent alluded to that, whereas it really is correctable. So on defense now, getting beat 1-on-1 with, the quarterback throwing the ball in 1.5 seconds, that's just a pride issue. You got to trust, you got to know what's going on with the rest of the defense, and knowing that we sending pressure, you got to limit those options. And I'm not a defender, I'm not a DB, so I can't speak too much on that, because what do I know? I wasn't out there, but you got to know what's going on overall in the scheme of your defense and what you're trying to accomplish. Once this team gets experience, trust, cohesion, you can play with intent and speed. Take all the thinking out, and we'll be good.
Yes. And again, patreon.com/BlazerPod. Again, just $5 a month, and you get exclusive access to episodes like that. We are doing, content left and right on that Patreon, and we are just a handful of patrons away from 100 Patreon supporters. So please, if you haven't already, $5 a month, or just join for a year and get that discount. And the discount is 10%. So go ahead and do that right now. There'll be a link in the podcast description to do so. But guys, turning the page over to Louisiana. And hey, Louisiana is coming off of a frustrating loss, kind of like UAB. They had a Sun Belt Conference game at ODU, Old Dominion, and they lost 38-31. Now we're going to get into the offense and just looking at the Louisiana offense. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't do a whole lot formation wise. Most of the time, it's just pistol or shotgun. And all it is just a bunch of play action are in having the quarterback roll out and look for an open receiver. Like it's really not that complicated. I guess maybe it is more complicated than that, but that's just watching, both of the games, the ODU game and the Northwestern State game. But I think UAB defensively wise matches up better with this Louisiana team than they did with the Georgia Southern. And we were talking on the after review Patreon show, like I don't know if UAB is going to face another offense like Georgia Southern or exactly like them. That's a tough offense to kind of prepare for. But Darren, when you look at this Louisiana Raging Cajun offense, like what pops off to you about that offense?
Well, I think up front, I don't think they're as cohesive as Georgia Southern, because Georgia Southern did a good job of knowing where they wanted to go and they went there. And this is different when you play with that level of speed and intent, when you understand what you're trying to accomplish, what the goal is, what kind of compromise you want to put the defense in. If you have all 11 guys on offense understanding that, then you can play a certain way. And I feel like Georgia Southern, from top down, from Brian Ellis all the way to the tight end, I think everybody was on the string and they played cohesively. So a lot of times when we made good defensive plays against them, it was just us blowing them up, versus them missing assignments. You would take that any day. You don't want to see your player get blown up, but you would take that. But now with Louisiana, they're not as explosive, I would say that. And that can be also true on the offensive line. They just don't get busy like the offensive line that Georgia Southern did. But they do a good job of getting hat on the hat. So a lot of the plays when they play Northwestern State, you see them breaking. You don't really see dominating blocks. Go look at it. It's not like they were just like mauling people and getting such movements. They really were just like covering up guys, and they made sure they got to their assignments. So in this game, I really want to see if our D linemen can shed blocks. Or are we going to just are we going to be sticky and just kind of stick to their guys? And they have good running backs that can make plays, and they have a dual threat quarterback. I think he's a streaky passer. I think there will be opportunities there to compromise him. But as a runner, he's a pretty good runner. He's not the fastest guy, but he's just a good runner. Like Thomas Johnston. Like TJ. Not said Thomas. Not TJ. Hold on, wait. I'm getting confused. Which Johnston?
No, you're
brother?
right. Thomas Johnston. Yeah, you're right.
What's his brother name? What's the line?
About one of our patrons?
That's Thomas Johnson. Yeah. So Thomas Johnston. Yeah, Tyler Johnston. Yeah.
So Tyler. And so Thomas was the linebacker, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tyler. My TJ3. My bad. I'm just trying to get the name right.
One of the Johnstons.
Yeah. No. We got to put respect on the Johnsons, man. TJ3 is a
yes.
And I don't care what nobody say. But he wasn't athletic. No, he was an athlete. Don't get me wrong. But he wasn't like a fast guy. He wasn't a quick twitch, get out of there. Nor was he like a Tebow power guy. He was just a guy that kind of gets it done on the ground, and that's kind of how I feel about what's this quarterback name?
His name's Ben Wooldridge. Quarterback Ben, yeah.
That's how I feel about Ben. He just kind of gets it done, and so I do trust his wheels if I'm looking from a Louisiana perspective. But just seeing 12 of 32 or 12 of 34 against Northwestern State, he did have 3 touchdowns and it was 1 pick. Anybody got the stats pulled up? How many yards did he throw against Northwestern State?
I don't have the Northwestern State. I have the ODU up. I mean, he had a better performance against ODU. It was 25 of 36 for 285 yards and 2 TDs. But for real though, I don't have any grievance with Ben Wooldridge, but their skill position players, I'm not impressed. They've got the one freshman Broussard, but other than that, like I just see a lot of drop passes. Like I think Woodridge does a great job and kind of putting the ball out there for his skill players to make a play, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's just not executed. And whether that's drop passes, penalties, like did you guys notice the penalties? This is a very undisciplined
Hmm.
team that
Mm.
UAB is facing
Good
this
point.
Saturday. So, but I know I've been talking a lot. Jimmy, what tell us what you think about this offense?
Yeah, looking at it a little bit more of a macro view, I view them as a ball control, time of possession team. They've got a balanced attack, but they're certainly more effective with the run. You guys have talked about Wooldridge, their signal caller. It stood out to me that, I think he had an injury last year, but he's came back solid, and he can still hurt you with the run. He's a bigger guy, 6'3", 215. And you guys touched on the skill players. I mean, they did lose 4 of their top 7 pass catchers from this past season's team, including their number 1 option. So they're probably still trying to work things out. And we know just how skilled we are in that arena. So, we certainly look to take advantage in that particular matchup. But the run game does scare me. They run the ball a good bit. And, they're not getting stuffed at the line of scrimmage a lot. They're getting some good gains. And, Darian touched on earlier, yeah, I do think they lack explosiveness through the air, but, I think that they have the potential to be quite explosive on the ground, and we've talked about on some various shows, just trying to, this defense of UAB trying to get their bearings early on with some of the fundamentals and tackling. And, I hope that, another week in practice, another week of trying to get that cohesion together is going to help that defensive unit. But it does concern me a little bit with Louisiana's ability to run the ground.
Yeah. So, and another thing that scares me about that too is like play action. And one thing that our safeties and linebackers have done, they've bit too hard once we've been presented with eye candy. So, if they are able to get their ground game going, which you can against UAB, well, we've shown it. I would say this. I would say against Georgia Southern, we came out aggressive against the run. We came out sure of ourselves until Georgia Southern started throwing the kitchen. They started throwing the kitchen sink at us. Next thing you know, it looked like we were on our heels guessing. So it wasn't that we couldn't stop the run. It was that they beat us badly mentally, I feel like. And they made us second guess ourselves when we didn't play fast. I don't think Louisiana is as complicated as an offense. I think they're easier to defend because what they want to do is easier to defend. And we also have game film of us getting out IQ'd. Not Sione, Tafao, not the defensive coordinator, but our players got out IQ'd. So I wonder if we'll be able to bounce back from an IQ perspective. And will we be able to be the ones setting the tone? We're going to be at home. I think that's a big deal. I think we should set the tone defensively and play downhill, stop their run, force them into short throws. I don't think they're as they're playmakers that John alluded to. I don't think they can make plays in under 2 seconds like Georgia Southern was. He was just going to his first option, boom, boom. They're not that good at receivers. If anything, receiver is their weakest spot on offense. Running backs are good. O-line is pretty good. Quarterback is pretty good. He's solid. At receiver, I felt like they lack something. So make them throw the ball, make them run the route tree. I think we have chances to get turnovers if we can contain the run game, and that's including the quarterback run game.
Yeah, and guys, we talked about last week, previewing Georgia Southern. We said we're going to have a strong performance from the defensive line. I think we still need that this week, but I think what's even more importantly is we're going to have some guys coming off the edge and be successful coming off the edge. Because, we alluded to earlier, like this team, Louisiana on offense, number one, they're bigger up front than what what UAB faced last week in Georgia Southern. But number two, they roll out the quarterback like 80% of the time. Like he's rolling out, trying to get in the to the edge to the other side. I mean, if we can have our edge rushers do what they're supposed to do and contain, I think UAB should have a good day Saturday night in Protective.
Yeah, John, but that goes back to what we just failed to do. We failed to play good IQ-based football. We failed to play good assignment-based football. It was so many assignments that we missed on defense. But my thing about that is we are young and inexperienced. We got the best experience. We was on the road playing a good offense, a really good offense, an experienced offense. John, you mentioned that they had a couple of all Sunbelt guys on that offensive line. And they had some good receivers, and I think that Georgia Southern has a chance to win the Sunbelt. My opinion, and maybe I'm saying it because they beat us. Who knows? Maybe I'm biased, but I just thought we looked at a good team. They have good individual players, but they have a good team, and I think that was the best lesson our defenders could have gotten. And we know the importance of playing assignment-based football. So now it's better, if you take a test at a highly ranked smart school, that test is going to be harder versus one of those failing schools where they're I'm not going to say, but that's a bad analogy because Louisiana's offense is not a failing school. So before anybody get offended, they're pretty good, but they're not that school. We're not taking that test. So we've been presented with harder. We know what's correctable. I think we should correct it, but that's yet to be proven. So if they go out and they don't prove it, I think that's just our identity, assignment based wise. I think we got to live with it.
Yeah, for sure. And then we're saying all this. Watch Louisiana come out 5 wide like Georgia Southern. It just man, that would be crazy. But hey, Jimmy, you got anything on the offense before we switch over to defense?
No, let's switch.
Okay, let's go ahead and switch. So looking at the defensive side of the ball, Louisiana, they really struggled. I was able to watch the full game from ODU when they lost to ODU last week, and ODU killed that defense on tempo. Like you look at that film, and really like late, even just the first quarter. Well, really early second quarter, but you already saw that D-line, like hands on their hips, like they were gassed and tired. And ODU had only run like 9 plays, like in the first 50, so it was crazy. Yeah. So if UAB can get the tempo and get some consistency and cohesion going on that offense, like I think UAB could have they could get a 40 burger on Louisiana. But that's the key. Like you've got to convert on third down. You've got to can't have any silly turnovers. You can't have a fumble on the first play of the game. You can't have a interception on just a bad throw. Like UAB has to be very smart and play sound football. But hey, kill them with the tempo. They could not handle that defense could not adjust at all to that tempo. At one point, ODU, and this isn't even throwing the ball. At one point, one drive, I forget which quarter it was in, but ODU gashed them for like 7 run plays in a row because Louisiana was just in a 3-man front, and they would just hurry up, snap the ball, and they would get 7-8 yards a pop. And that defense was gassed. So if you want to see UAB get that run game going more, this might be the opportunity Saturday night against this Louisiana defensive front. If you can be successful at, number one, maintaining tempo, fast style, but also, converting on plays and doing what Coach Mortensen has assigned you to do. But Jimmy, what do you see out of this Raging Cajun defense?
Well, looking across the board, kind of at the returnees, they've got 3 returning starters from this past season. They do have to replace 7 of their top non-tacklers from last year's team. On the D line, I think they have some solid depth. It's my understanding they've got at least one of their contributing pieces that's serving a 3-game suspension, so that particular person won't be available. I think they're good at linebacker, but I think they're weak in the secondary. So they lost a lot of guys. They had a guy just like UAB did that transferred to Alabama, and you just saw that last week. When you're watching the ODU game, you're seeing the stats. I mean, ODU passed for 247 yards, and it wasn't on high volume. So they actually averaged 19 yards of completion, 4 touchdowns. Again, this past week, they had 5 catches for 20 plus yards. So I agree, John, as it relates to our passing game and the tempo. I don't foresee UAB having trouble scoring on Louisiana. At the same time, if I were Louisiana, what I would try to do is try to control the clock and hold on the ball, time of possession. They had, I think it was like 37 minutes time of possession this past week in their game. So I think they're going to try to potentially slow things down, which would make sense to keep the Morton Dilfer offense off of the field. And that's going to be similar to their formula, in my opinion, again, to kind of at least slow us down a little bit.
And real quick before I throw it to Darian, I mean, Jimmy, wouldn't you say the NC film would be good for Louisiana to review coming into this game? Because isn't that kind of what North Carolina A&T tried to do, is just play ball control?
Absolutely. Yeah. If I'm Louisiana again, that's going to be one of the methods. And again, just like you said, they may come out 5 wide in the first possession. We're like,
I
hey,
hope
that's
not.
why we're not. That's why we're not doing this professionally, because what do we know? But yeah, I would certainly see that as a potential winning formula for Louisiana.
All right, Darian, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think the good thing about our team now is that we've had these 2 games. We're gaining this experience. And the biggest difference between NCAT and Louisiana is film. We didn't have any kind of film to review to look at NCAT, and I think their physicalness and they got after it. I think it kind of caught us off guard. Like, we weren't ready for that, because I did see that aggression some at Georgia Southern. Like I said, a lot of it was missed assignments and us having to think. It wasn't like physically getting kind of dominated. No, we was there. Like, if you look back at that film against Georgia Southern, our D-line actually kind of played okay. Like, they didn't play bad. So going into this game, I think we have good film. We have 2 good games we can look at on Louisiana, and I think we should be ready for their. We know what's expected at this point, and it's not as complicated as Georgia Southern. So we'll be able to play downhill. My thing is, I think we'll have to kind of send pressure sometimes, even to just have an extra man on the line of scrimmage to help support and stop the run. My key thing I'm going to be looking for is, will we be able to hold up 101? Like Georgia Southern, whenever they got those one-on-one matchups, they mostly won almost all of those matchups against our DBs. So now I'm looking at our DBs and safeties, like, bounce back. Will Ray Thornton be healthy? Is he playing? Will Damon Miller be healthy? Is he playing? I would like to see those guys out there. I would like to see what our linebackers do in coverage. I think our guys showed that they can play downhill. I think we have enough flashes of that at linebackers. I think we can stop the run. What will we do when it's play action, though? Like, our linebackers were not good in coverage neither. They just weren't. They have good running backs. I don't know if their running backs really catch the ball like that, but they have receivers that can make stuff. They're not the best receivers, but they can make something happen. That's why I think this is a good matchup for us. And I think our DBs can have a bounce back. I think our linebackers and coverage can have a bounce back. Can is the word. I'm going to keep using that word until they show that they can, because we may not be as good as we think we are. That's the truth of it. We may not be as good defensively if we can't man up with these guys. I think our D-line is pretty solid. But our safeties in particular and our linebackers, we have to show something this game.
Guys, are we done with defense?
Yep.
Yep. Special
Okay.
teams make field goals, please.
Please, and coverage, please, and be good in coverage. Don't let them get to the 35, 40-yard line. All right.
Like every time they start in a 35 or come on. Another thing is like Zeno. I think the only thing Zeno does sometimes when he gets himself in trouble is sometimes he stares down the first option a little too much. I saw one play against Georgia Southern when Score was coming out the backfield and it was on the third down and he got Skull blasted. It was just like a momentum play for them, but he stared Skull down. It's like that's the guy he was going to go to. We had, I think it was maybe Fred Farrier, or it was one of those guys across the middle. They was wide open. Sometimes when he has gotten himself in trouble, we think about MCAT, that play that should have been pick six. He kind of stares his guy down, like that first option. It's like, but we don't get the luxury that Davis Brand had to just throw to the first option all the time. Sometimes you got to, and most of the time he's good at that, but when he has gotten in trouble, he does that. So look for him to like not do that anymore. And I think Zeno is one of the best quarterbacks in this conference. So if he cuts that out, he could be the second best behind Pratt, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. Now, guys, I didn't have this in our agenda, but before we get to score predictions, in your opinion, and I'll throw it to I want to throw it back to Darian first. Is this a must-win game for UAB and Trent Dilfer? I know this is crazy to say, just week 3 of the season, a non-conference game. But Darian, in your opinion, is this a must-win game for UAB?
Yes, because I think we need to show that we've improved. B, we're at home, and we need some momentum. We need momentum. If we can't beat Louisiana, I'm looking at the rest of our schedule and be like, okay, where are we? I'm not saying Louisiana is a bad team. They're not. I'm saying that I believe we should beat them. That's all I'm saying. And I said that about Georgia Southern, and then I realized how advanced Georgia Southern was as a team, not as individual collectivists of talent, but as a team. And I think we can grow a lot from week 2 to week 3. I don't think Louisiana is as good of a team as Georgia Southern is. I don't think Louisiana is as good as a team as we are. They are dealing with a lot of the issues. They got a lot of guys they're trying to replace. Jimmy mentioned that he doesn't think that defensive backfield is good. I didn't know that. I didn't know much about their DBs. I didn't know that they were kind of lacking experience back there. I don't think their D line is good. One telltale sign is they do a lot of stunts and twists and stuff like that. When you do that almost every play, that's kind of a sign of saying we can't whoop you one-on-one. Georgia Southern didn't have to do stunts and twists with number 88 and number 9. They just made plays. But when you try to scheme an advantage for your guys, almost every play, that's a telltale sign, because we did that my senior year here at UAB because we lost a lot of D linemen. So I think we should have our way. I think we should run the ball well against them. So, yeah. Jimmy?
Yeah, Jimmy, what's your thoughts? Is this a must-win game?
Yeah, I know it's early, but I would say yes, and I would say primarily because of the way the schedule lines up. When you're looking down the barrel of the gun, you got Georgia, Tulane coming up there afterwards. Yeah, you get a home matchup against South Florida, but UTSA, Memphis, FAU in the weeks to follow. So this is really kind of the end of the beginning stretch of the season before you go into a brutal middle stretch, and you have somewhat of a soft landing with your last 3 games. So, we're all fans here. We know that we can't lose this type of momentum here early in the season. Like, we've got to be grasping to some type of momentum to keep the general interest here in the Birmingham area engaged, and just to not have that big of a sinking hole for this first year coaching staff. I think yes, it's a must-win game.
Yeah, guys, I 100% agree. And I hate to say it. I know we've got some listeners just shaking their head, like, really, they're saying week 3, this is a must-win game for the season. But I mean, guys, if you've been with BVP, for a while, go back to April when we had the schedule release episode. And Jimmy, Darren, correct me if I'm wrong, but when that schedule dropped, didn't we all agree that UAB had to come out of these first 3 games at least 2-1 to get to go have a chance to go bowling this year? Didn't we all agree that?
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
So, and Jimmy and you, Darian too. You've got this game, Louisiana, but then you've got to go to Georgia, got to go to Tulane. I mean, that both of those games are going to be tough, and they're on the road. So, I agree 100%. This is a must-win game, and also looking at the flip side, it's a must-win game for Louisiana. Their fan base is pretty ticked off. I listened to the Raging Review. They did a good job, covering the game and covering the program. But one cool thing that I like that they do is after each game, and maybe we'll do this one day, but they have a call-in show for their recap. Could you imagine doing a call-in show and having our listeners call in and kind of vent, after a loss? Like, I believe that the ODU episode was like over 2 hours long. Now, I didn't get the whole 2 hours, but my goodness, I mean, they are, to save you 2 hours, they are pretty ticked off about their team's performance, especially at ODU. Like, when you give up 38 points to a team like ODU that averaged less than 20 points last year, I mean, that's pretty bad. And I know last year's last year and this year's this year. I get it, but I don't know.
I think we just give our guys time. Our guys, just speaking for us, we give our guys time and then some experience. I think that I saw a lot of the people on Twitter. They were like, "We need Reeves. We should have let go of Reeves." And I love David Reeves. You know what I'm saying? But that's it. You can't say that right now. We got a whole different person. We don't have Jalen Key. We don't have Starlin Thomas. We don't have Noah Wilder, Tyler Taylor. We don't Renard Ellis, Drew Tuazama, and think about the guys before that, Jordan Smith,
Yeah.
and all those type of guys. Marino, Anthony Rush. We had some dogs, bro. And now that team, we still got dogs, but we're young. So let them gain experience. Rusau is a dog in my eyes. Ricky Lee is a dog. I think those guys can get it done. But I just think we've had a good initiation. I think this would be a good game for them to prove to themselves that they can really be those type of players. And I think we can be a good defense. I think we can be an average defense at least. Right now we're not a good defense. And that's because the team aspect is so just give it time. I saw something about like Garrett McGee.
Oh, get that out of here! I saw a
That's
couple. I saw
listen,
Jeff and somebody. Yeah, come on now. Hey, Trent Dilfer didn't kick it off both halves in a row. Come on,
listen,
come on now.
it's not close. Not close. Not close at all. Y'all stop with that, man. We're jumping off the ledge a little too much. Let's put everything in the proper context. Give our guys time to gel as a team. And I think we should take a significant step this coming up Saturday.
All right, Darren. Let's throw it to you for predictions. Does UAB get it done this Saturday?
UAB gets it done 38 to 28.
Let's go, Jimmy. Does UAB get it done this Saturday?
Hey, we talked about it being a must-win, and for those of you that remember, Louisiana came into Legion Field back in 2020, and they ruined our 21-game home winning streak.
I was at the beach for that game, man. That was the one home game that I missed.
Yep.
UAB lost. But
They
hey, guys,
ruined
I'm going to be there this Saturday, so don't worry.
So I touched on this a little bit earlier. My fear is just them with the counter to our tempo, and really, again, I feel like we're going to be able to score at will. I think they're going to slow things down. I think they're going to, continue to be effective and successful on the ground. So I do have this game UAB 35, Louisiana 38.
You got Louisiana winning 38-35?
I do. Yep.
Well, I've got it. I've got UAB coming out on top 41-34. So I do think the defense kind of struggles a little bit and gives up 34 points, but I think the offense is just too much for Louisiana's defense to contain. So I do like the Blazers coming out on top. So, hey, guys, we're going to be back Saturday night for the Louisiana game instant reaction show. And of course, on Patreon later Sunday or Monday, we'll have the after review show where we'll actually, break down film. But hey, regardless, even worse comes to worse. If Jimmy is right, UAB doesn't get
I
it
do
done.
not want to be right. Period. I will be all in my feels.
You didn't want to be right last week, but you
I know.
were.
I will be all up in my feels if we start off 1-2. Trust me.
No, but
well,
hey,
the reason I have them scoring 28 because we mentioned that we believe that they want the ball control.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they want to slow the game down and use clock, I think it'll give them less opportunities to score, and maybe we can hold because their game plan is more simplistic, and that maybe we can have our running game going. We don't have to pass as much. Like I want to see our guys over 100. I want to see 200-yard rushers. So I think the game should be quicker. It should be more methodical, therefore resulting in a lower score. But they don't have a great defense, so. If ODU can put up those amount of points, I think we can too, especially being at home and possibly having a better offense.
Right. And even though worse comes to worse, if Jimmy's prediction is correct, that UAB falls this Saturday night, I still have all the trust in the world with Trent Dilfer and that coaching staff. And, hey, there's still conference play. I know that first conference opponent is tough, Tulane on the road in New Orleans. But they still, Darian mentioned this earlier, they still have time to figure it out.
Oh, yeah. What's funny is the same thing happened to me last week. When we sit here, we're pumping out these episodes. There is zero part of me that wanted to stick to what prediction I wrote down on the notes before we went in. Like I'm sitting here ready to go after this or during this podcast and just completely switch my prediction. But I had to keep a straight face and just kind of roll with what, the non-emotional, just guess and how the game will play out. But hey, for those of y'all going to the game, come find me, John, and Big Jim, and Richard, and whoever else is out around Uptown before the game. Come say hi at Protective Stadium. I love seeing some of the patrons and just Blazer fans at the first home game. So definitely come say hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry, Thomas Justin. I want to meet you, man, but I won't be able to be there this weekend again because A, we have a brand new baby, and B, I have volleyball games and cheerleading practices and competition practices and football games I got to attend to with the little ones. But then also we have to find some time to celebrate our anniversary. We weren't able to this past weekend, so I have to devote that time to the wifey before I can't put football before my wife. I want to remain happily married. So guys, again, I apologize. I'm going to be there the next home game, I swear. And then I want to be able to meet you guys along with John and Jimmy. So I apologize.
No, you ain't got to apologize, bro. And Jimmy, I was going to say Richard will not be there this Saturday.
No.
Because he will be at the beach.
Oh my gosh. This is not a good sign.
So if UAB loses, you can just blame Richard Duncan because he's at the beach. So, last time UAB faced off Louisiana at Legion Field, I was at the beach, took the L. So we know who to blame. Yeah. But hey, that being said, Darian just laid out all the stuff that he is doing. Guys, help us get over 100 Patreon supporters because Darian needs that support. Let him get, if he gets over 100, hey, Shaniqua might just let him go to some games if we get over 100 Patreon supporters. So
listen, I am a volleyball trainer. I am learning like cheer. I've learned the competition cheer. I'm like,
you refereeing, bro. You're reffing volleyball games too.
Yes, I'm doing like everything. Like I don't know what's going on. I gotta run some concession stand stuff.
Darian,
I'm like, yeah, what's
speak,
up?
speaking of cheers, did you teach your girls that cheer they were doing on Saturday night? Booger
Oh,
Jimmy, did you teach them that?
I had nothing to do with that. That was all Nora. That was
hey, I
all
love the
Nora.
cheers for me. Hey, I love the cheers. So
Yeah,
they can keep it
what the
up.
heck was that? John loves to watch sports. Was that yours?
Oh, like of course he loves to loves to watch the game. I'm like, that's not an insult. Like you
Yeah,
talking about Jimmy and his boogers and me and my snoring.
yeah.
I'm like, come on,
We're gonna
man.
have to work on that.
I need some real dirt. Like I need some TMZ level dirt on John to give to
Hey,
the
I'm
girls.
hey, I'm perfect. You can ask my wife. I'm perfect. All right, Darren, close us out.
Blazer Nation, just win.
Just win,
Yes.
baby. Just win.